Hi, my name is Joseph Ally. Welcome to my channel. And today I want to talk about how everything that transpires in this world, each event, although it may appear to be an individual, unique event, all conspires together to fulfill a greater purpose, and that purpose being your imaginal acts. So the reason this topic came up is because recently I had a close friend who had went through a series of unfortunate events, but ultimately those events, alongside other events that were happening that were co-occurring elsewhere in the world, all of them together combined to fulfill a manifestation. So this is something, interestingly enough, also came to mind because I was watching Game of Thrones, and there's this dude who's, I forget his name, but he's always talking about the Lord of Light. And it's very interesting because in that series, a lot of what is referred to when talking about the Lord of Light is very similar to what happens in this world. And it's interesting how the Lord of Light is kind of referring to what we're talking about, because in scripture it says God is light, etc. Now, for those of you who have seen me before or not, I refer to scripture, but not in any way in which you would have heard in any church, even by reading the scripture, unless you used a concordance and were basically referencing the letters behind the words. But and that's what he says in the TV show, that everyone has their own individual purpose, and it may appear to be that we are setting out to be on this great grand event, but none of us, or let me rephrase it, many events in which we're undergoing have a greater purpose for which we set into motion beforehand that we were entirely unaware of. So for me, for the purpose of this video, I'll describe an experience that happened with myself, or multiple experiences. So for me, the reason I got into this is because of events that had happened in my past. When I say this, I mean manifesting. So by the age of 22, I was entering in and out of rehabs continuously, and that was not the life that I wanted to live. That's not how I was raised. Nevertheless, due to a surgery that I had when I was 16, and I'm 31 now, they put me on pain medication, which sent me down a path that I wasn't meant to be on, or at least that I thought I wasn't meant to be on. So from that point, 22 and onward, all I had been trying to do was discover how to rid myself of that kind of mental disorder of trying to basically conceal emotions, and then ultimately, beyond my willpower, use these painkillers in order to kind of live life. And in doing that, I stumbled upon manifestation. And from that point forward, once I understood that in any capacity I had the power to modify and control events in the external world, it became an overwhelming obsession for me to kind of demystify and figure out how to use this, how to use manifesting to correct my course in life, but not only that, to achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. One of those things that I've always wanted to achieve was to have my own business. Since I was 10 years old, that's what I've wanted to do. Probably before that, but I can remember at 10, I was making websites for people for money. But, like I said, somewhere around, I don't know, my late teens, I got off course. And although I was still attempting to do something like start a business, I also was super worried about my well-being and my mortality. So getting into manifesting, realizing that we are the creator of all of the phenomenon of this world, that this reality that we see is just an outpicturing of our mind. So in other words, it's myself is not just this body and this mind. This external reality is also a manifestation of my mind. So in other words, what I'm saying is, your reality as it is, your friends, your family, your job, the people that you encounter on a day-to-day basis, anything that you interact with or comes into your awareness, more specifically, in your day-to-day life has been manifested by you and is a literal out picturing of your mind. So along my journey, and basically after, obsessively studying this and testing this, putting this to the test, most importantly, there came certain periods of time where I wanted to start a business. And in doing that, I would imagine that that I had a business that was successful, and I would try my hardest. And I would basically, at this point, I was still figuring out the difference between forcing and imagining and letting things happen, which is kind of a delicate balance. But ultimately, the solution to that is to imagine first and then let these things come to you, and you conquer each step as it's presented to you. But I would imagine these things to an utmost reality, and then I would set forth on trying to accomplish these goals. Some of them in programming, because I'm a software engineer. Others are in marketing. And then on my own time, I was obsessively always studying manifestation. But with these marketing businesses that I would create, or these web development businesses that I would create, I would get to a level of obsessive studying to the point where I would basically consider myself near expert on, spending years of my life studying, examining, and putting things to the test as far as that's concerned. But then ultimately, a lot of them kind of crashed or stopped before they became really successful. And at the time, unsure of why that was, feeling defeated, understanding that manifestation worked, but not really overall towards my big picture, I, became pretty much upset with that. But nevertheless, I always had the next bright idea, and I always set forth on another project. Some were large software projects, creating big things. Sometimes I was successful in web development businesses, but then found it boring once I was just creating things for other people, so I would stop doing that. And then ultimately, a few years ago, I had decided to create a blog to kind of explain my findings with manifestation. And when I say my findings, I mean there's a lot of information out there, but not a lot of it has been put to scrutiny, to testing, systematic testing. And so the way that I approach manifesting is a very pragmatic, systematic way, because a lot of what I was learning from other people were not, these techniques were not effective, or they just were not working accurately. And for me, having done thousands of experiments, I could tell, or I would know what was accurate and what wasn't. And so I decided to do that, create a blog to explain my findings, share my findings. And in doing that, someone reached out to me, Lila from Nevolution. She asked if she could film or record with her voice one of my blog posts. And then ultimately in the video, she put a calling out to ask me to make a YouTube channel, and the rest is history. But the rest is history means then a business followed. I not only was releasing free content, which was helping a lot of people, but all the other skills that I had picked up, that I had somewhat mastered over the past 6 or 7 years, or more than that if you count programming, 20 years, all came together, each portion of it. Every person that I met that would teach me a specific thing, every project that I underwent that I either failed or succeeded on, all of those independent, very specific segments of time and energy put into those things all together perfectly added up to do this. And that even means some interactions I had with people where I thought that maybe I was going to be in a relationship with someone. This happened very specifically. And then things went wrong. But that person told me one thing that when I put it into practice meant helped the business to grow almost immediately, instantly. That's when the business started. And so we don't know all the time these actions that we're taking, what they're adding up to, unless you look back at your imaginal acts. Your imaginal acts are what is dictating all of this. And sometimes when we set something into motion, well, every time we go on a bridge of incidents. So when we imagine something, we bring forth an image into our mind's eye, we impress it on our subconscious mind. And once we do that, it establishes a bond to that end scene. So it takes that scene from eternity or from heaven, because heaven is within, and we select that end scene. And when it's selected, we are unaware of how it will transpire, but we can know for a fact that a series of events will unfold that will bring us to that end result. And so some of those middles will have us think that we want something. Oh, I want to manifest having this type of business. I want to manifest having that type of business. And that was all set into motion from the first imaginal act. And so as I'm manifesting this or I'm manifesting that, I had no idea that it was connected to my big picture that I had imagined way before all of those things. And so ultimately, these pieces of the puzzle, these people that came forward and gave me tips or advice, or these small relationships that I had with individuals, all of them together form the perfect bridge and allow us to ultimately manifest our end. Now, the beautiful thing about manifesting our end, and kind of an aside to this, is that we don't need to know how it's going to happen. But what's essential to know is that your imagination, is extremely powerful. And once we impress the subconscious mind, it doesn't matter what we attempt to do, how we attempt to do it, we are going to be brought down a bridge of incidents. We will, no matter what, be brought down a bridge of incidents, which ultimately will lead us to our end result. And so for me, one of my end results had just been creating a successful business, which I did. I manifested that. Now, I'm not special. Whatever you want, you can also have as well. The whole key is to find a symbolic representation of the end result of that which you want. So if you want to have a business, if you want to be in good shape, I've lost weight, I've gained weight through manifesting, and always in a very simple, easy way. Whatever it is, you form a picture in your mind of that which you want, but you already have to have it in your mind. And once you create that symbolic representation, that picture, that image, you enter into it, into your imagination, and you give it all the tones of reality. So what would you see, smell, taste, touch, hear? Who would you be talking to? What would they be saying? Would they be congratulating you? You could take any of the imaginal senses, combine them together after you already received it. That's from the point of view of having already received it. Enter into this imaginal scene in first person point of view, which means looking through your own eyes in the imaginal act. And then make this scene short and condensed, bite-sized for the subconscious mind. For the subconscious mind sometimes doesn't receive long streams of information, but rather bite-sized pieces. And then you repeat it over and over and over and over again. And in doing this, you are subduing the conscious mind and impressing the subconscious mind. And the only requirement to manifesting what you want is to impress the subconscious mind. So that is the key of how to manifest what you want. Now, you may have a bridge of incidents that is very short. You may have a bridge of incidents which is longer, or that includes more than one person having co-occurring events happening. But ultimately, none of that matters. What matters is you take the technique and you implement it to the best of your ability. Relax, close your eyes, take some deep breaths, and then visualize after you've planned your scene. And then watch as it begins to unfold. So all things work together for those who love God, is the verse in the Bible. All things work together for good to those who love God. But really, God is I am, which is your imagination. And so when you spend time with your imagination, think of lovely things, think of pure things, think of things of peace, of joy, things for other people. And it doesn't matter how it's going to happen, it will happen and you will receive your end. So anyway, If you like this video, definitely subscribe, hit the bell icon, hit the like button, which I forgot to say in the beginning. It does something to the algorithm so that those who wouldn't normally be able to see this video will be able to see this video. And stay tuned for the next one. Thank you.